All right, I think we have a good quorum here. Thank you everybody for joining us this morning, this afternoon, whatever time of day it is for wherever you are on the planet. We're happy to have you here with our webinar today, Engaging Leadership Throughout the Agile Transformation Journey. Really excited to be presenting this to everyone here, and we've got some great panelists on the call. And looking forward. We'll want to talk through some of what we're doing in this webinar. So yes, we are recording. So we will be sharing the recording out after the webinar. We try to get it out the same day so that you can have it in your hands and share it with your teammates. Please, I have to imagine everybody has used Zoom. If you haven't, welcome to 2021. But there's a little Q&A button down there on the bottom. We'll be taking questions throughout. We'll generally hold the questions till the very end, but please ask your questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom. We're going to leave some time to answer some questions along the way. So a little bit about us. So I'm Thad West, CEO at Iceberg Technology. We are Atlassian Platinum Partners. So what that means is we do everything and anything around Atlassian. So we help teams from DevOps to Agile to very technical engineering type work where people are moving to cloud or combining instances. All of that kind of great stuff is what we help all of our clients do. We've been doing that since 2005. We've been working with the Atlassian tools since 2005. So we've been doing this a long time, and we know what we're doing around that space. And one of the recent interesting developments is we are now Agile at Scale specialized partners with Atlassian. So what that means is they put us through a grueling process, making sure we have the right people, the right skills, and the right experience delivering Agile solutions at scale. And you'll talk to a few of our big brains on this webinar here, and also hear from one of our fantastic customers. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tracy Walton. So Tracy is one of our big Agile brains here. She will also be moderating this panel. She's a lot more qualified to moderate the panel than I am. But Tracy started her journey with Atlassian as a product manager, looking for a more efficient way to manage her backlog and provide transparency to her team and colleagues. As an Atlassian and Agile consultant, Tracy offers a unique blend of passion for leading teams, product expertise, and 10 years of hands-on experience in Agile software development for a variety of products and industries, including digital marketing, customer relationship management, subscription billing, and compensation analysis. Tracy, welcome. Why don't you, I'm going to officially hand the baton over to you and get us going.
Thank you very much for that, Thad. I am very excited and wanted to welcome everybody to the call today and get us going. I will go ahead and introduce the rest of our panel. I'm very excited to introduce Kimberly Peshin from Fox Corporation. I have had the pleasure of working with Kimberly over the last few months here. So let me give you a proper introduction. Kimberly is a key leader inspiring and driving successful adoption of scaled Agile delivery capabilities across Fox Technology, and in partnership with leaders and teams across the entire portfolio of Fox networks and digital products. She's uniquely positioned to provide Agile leadership coaching and training across the business while maintaining ownership of strategic initiatives that drive agility and measurable outcomes. Kimberly earned her degree in information and decision science and holds several industry certifications, including SAFe SPC, Lean Portfolio Management, Executive Leadership Coaching, among others. Welcome, Kimberly. I'm so excited to have you here. Your experience and knowledge and all kinds of stories to share. So welcome. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Tracy, for that kind introduction. Of course, as Tracy says, I am the VP of Agile Delivery, one of few of us, I guess, out there in the world right now at Fox Corporation. Fox realized that they needed this role in order to roll out scaled Agile. So some of you may be familiar with our products. We have several television stations. But one of the areas, the key area that I'm responsible for is our consumer products and engineering, which includes all of our digital consumer-facing products, which are your Fox.coms, your apps, our sports. You know, sometimes we have Super Bowl, but we have a lot of pay-per-view and a lot of events that some of you are very, very familiar with. But we also have an app called Fox Now, which is an entertainment product. And of course, we have our news areas, which we have an app for that. We have the news app, and we have foxnation.com as well, which is part of our news extension. And my area is responsible for successfully rolling out and evolving all of those products. And we are currently going through a scaled agile transformation.
Thank you. Yes, I love that we're all familiar with the brand in one way or another, and that we are, some of your end customers as well. So we will benefit from this transformation, no doubt, no doubt. All right, thanks. And then I'll also introduce Anne Kahraman. She is our principal agilist at ISOS Technology. She's helped organizations large and small increase customer and employee satisfaction, improve operations, contain costs, and overall enhance their ability to deliver. She has experience in agile coaching at all levels, large-scale transformations and organizational change management, and has an MBA in management, and her certifications include SAFe SPC, Certified Executive Coach, and a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Welcome. And she is also an overall awesome human being to collaborate with on all things Agile. Welcome, Anne. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right, so let's move on to the moment we've all been waiting for. The reason that we're all here, this is such a hot topic, getting engaged with leadership during our Agile transformation. So let's not delay any further and dive into those beautiful brains that we have on the call and hear about this, because I think this is something that we'd all like to do a little bit better. Right? We've heard in all kinds of literature that is out there today in the industry about how leadership participation is so crucial for successful adoption of Agile mindset and better ways of working. So I want to hear, let's start with you, Kimberly. I want to hear a little bit about, how the journey of engaging leadership has gone down there at Fox.
Well, I think the key part of why I'm feeling like we're going to be successful with this is the fact that I can build some champions. There was already a champion in place before I got there, and she has done a fantastic job of laying some foundational work in place. And she's able to go and campaign with the upper executive leadership team. And I'm able to fuel her with, data points and areas where I've already observed where we need to do these transformations first in order to garner those big wins. So having her as a champion and myself as well with my peers, other vice presidents in the company, we're able to actually kind of sales and market, if you will. And anybody who's been part of the transformation knows that is part of the beginning part, is going through that roadshow of how Agile is going to solve our problems. So that's one of the main things. Yes.
Awesome. And, I'd imagine your roadshow isn't like a one-time thing, right? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about, what that looks like?
Well, one of the key things is people want they want their ways that they've already established that they do business. They want to be able to hold on to that. So when you say we're going to change the way that we work, they get a little bit nervous. So showing those small little wins on areas in which you can still have that upper leadership reporting that doesn't have to be in a status, if you will. Showing them those kind of you're still going to get the information that you need. You're just going to get it faster, and you're going to get it more accurate because we're going to be more predictable. Those things really trigger leaders, and they get engaged and they get excited. And when they can see employees being happier. So and word of mouth is huge. So once we get one or two leaders on board, they start talking with each other. I mean, some of them, they have long running relationships, and they're socializing, and they're talking about this Agile thing. And it makes my ears just light up when I hear it.
You had mentioned previously that some of the leaders, you heard them taking on the vocabulary and speaking as if they were you. You could see some of that roadshow kind of working and taking place. How exciting is that, right?
It's very exciting. And I'm glad that I don't have to be the single voice in the room, because I can tell that people are listening. They know that we were at a tipping point before I got here. So they're really embracing this opportunity. Hearing the terminology, although it's not always accurately used, but they're at least starting to throw the language around, which is very encouraging.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I'm very excited for you for that, because it makes such a huge difference, right? Have you, you can compare it to the opposite case, like fighting an uphill battle. You can only really get so far, right? Your teams can only
100%.
really adopt and transform. So that's I'm excited for you on that.
Yeah, and it's important for the teams to see the leaders embracing this as well. It goes a long way. I mean, you're moving from command and control, you're moving from the information having to come from top down, but when the teams are learning at the same time and they're hearing their leaders starting to embrace that, it goes a long way.
Right. Well, because the teams also have that same kind of anxiety about, change, right? And to have that support from leadership, I think you're right. It makes the biggest difference. Yeah.
100%.
All right. So thank you. I'm going to move on to Anne. Kimberly's given us some, great examples of getting participation from leaders, roadshow, and showing, examples of reports and data, wins. So can you share with us, in your experience, some of the behaviors that you've observed that result in further participation from leaders?
Sure. Yeah. So definitely leadership participation in team events. So whether it's program level team events or, even at the Scrum team level events, if they drop into the Scrum ceremonies and sort of, offer some insight, I think it's really crucial for team members to kind of witness that and see that behavior. They also then say, oh, okay, well, our leaders are doing these things as well. Also, another thing that I've seen happen is at one of my clients, a CTO actually attended and presented at the quarterly planning session. The words that he used were agile vocabulary, and those terms were then repeated throughout the 2-day planning session, and it kind of even set the tone for the entire quarter. Of oh, he wants these goals to be achieved. He said it in the presentation, so let's go get it. Let's make it happen. I think it's crucial to have leaders involved in those events. Another client I had, the VP of product dropped in and helped sort of troubleshoot some of the planning the team was doing, and I had a little happy Agile tear down my cheek because it is so lovely to see these people getting involved and actually, doing the activities that the teams are doing as well.
Yeah, that makes such a difference between here's a thing that everybody else is doing, and everybody, we're going to do this thing. Go forth. Right. That's kind of one way to maybe try to adopt a new mindset, but then actually adopting it yourself and participating in with the teams is what's making the biggest difference. Right. And I think that, engaging with our leadership team enough such that they feel confident in what, their role is in this, whole journey, let's say, because I'm assuming that it wasn't like on day one, they're like, sign me up, get me in there. I know what I'm doing, right? There's some coaching that comes into play with the leadership team.
For sure. Yeah, that leadership coaching is crucial, and just giving them those tips and tricks to say, hey, what, stop by here, drop in over here, and make your presence known, and also walk the walk.
Right. And maybe we'll as part of Agile, we're all adopting a learning kind of mindset. So we might, flub here and there, but let's be honest and call it out. And that's all okay, right? That's a part of that mindset shift.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to go back to with Kimberly, you mentioned tipping point earlier on.
Yes.
And that was, it seemed like, a key term about how leaders, you got like the ear, the leadership team.
Yes.
Can you talk more about like the events leading up to that tipping point?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the first things I did when I got in here was run a value stream mapping, and through virtual, it was longer than your typical 3-day that you would run a value stream mapping. And one of the things that we discovered was that we were taking 12 days to do 86 days of waiting to do 12 days of actual work. And sometimes we'd have a feature and we have 46 teams And they've got a mixture of different Agile methods that they're using. You have some people that are calling themselves squads, some people that are calling themselves teams. We had 46 of those, and sometimes a feature had to touch 25 to get out the door, which meant some of those features were never getting out of the door because they were, we're losing momentum, we're losing the value that we would get from this to our customers. So showing them and exposing that, that we were wasting 86 days to get 12 days of work done. So we started realigning now into Agile release chains. We've got our first stab at what our portfolio, we're not optimal yet, but at least we've identified where our Agile release chains need to be in order for us to rally around delivering value to our customers without spending 86 days of wait time.
I mean, every time you say 86 days, I don't even just physically hurts me.
Yes.
And I'm guessing it's something that, wasn't a giant shock, maybe because everybody can kind of feel that pain of maybe how long things were taking, but yeah, I don't know how we couldn't get the ears and eyes or pain or hurt from those kinds of numbers. It's impressive.
Well, I think they never took the time to actually measure it, right? We were hearing the people, saying, how come, you know how it is, business is, what is technology doing over there? I'm never getting my work out the door and those kind of things, but really digging in and finding where those bottlenecks and delays were and reorganizing people away from their reporting hierarchy, if you will. I think that was the key point that was missing, was really getting them to understand that it doesn't matter who you report to. If you work with this group of people, we can get rid of some of those handoffs and delays. So that was one of the big things that they hadn't considered yet. So once leaders saw that, and then the pretty pictures on an actual graph that showed what was happening.
Yeah, I'm sure you put that in your roadshow, I'm sure. Absolutely. Like you're tying, you're not just evangelizing Agile for the sake of Agile. Right. It's like, hey, we want to make a difference and look at where we are. And here's an answer to where we want to go. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can see how you get there.
They're so on board with it. That's just so refreshing for me, having been in this field for so long. It's refreshing that the leaders are embracing this opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I've got more questions. I'm going to keep us going. And of course, we'll do Q&A at the end. So if there's more that our listeners want to hear, we can see if we have time to dive back in there. So I'm gonna move us along to another topic here, because we've generally been talking about engaging leadership, but I think a lot of times we concentrate on maybe just the leadership that's focused on technology, or just the business aspect of it. But there's an entire organization that can really be engaged in our, better ways of working, which can include HR, finance. They're great examples. And so, they're not traditionally considered part of this transformation. I think that's changing, and we're going to talk about, some of why. But I want to open this up to Anne. Let's start with you. Can you talk about how you've had success in introducing these, I'll call them other teams like HR and finance, and those leaders, how they can contribute to better ways of working?
Yeah. So, in the past, I've worked with representatives from the HR department, and even just renaming HR itself, right? Because resources, in Agile, we always talk about, we shouldn't use the term people aren't resources, gold and sand and rocks are resources, and people are talents. So, just renaming the term
we're people.
Right, a place to start, right? But one way I've worked with them in the past is to actually start writing in some Agile transformation elements into everyone's goals and objectives. So yeah, depending on your role, if you're a Scrum Master or even just a lean Agile leader, someone in a leadership capacity or a senior manager, what kind of Agile goals and objectives do they have inside of their in their annual review or peer review analysis or assessments? So that really, Oh, go ahead, sorry.
it starts to seep, like Agile isn't just, we're doing this in my team and, but like you're starting to really seep into the whole culture of the organization. And that's such an important, I couldn't imagine, leaders in people ops or human resources not get excited about the impact that they could make across the whole organization by doing something as small as taking a look at, our goals and objectives. I really, really like that.
Yeah, it communicates that importance that this entire endeavor of, business agility, enterprise agility, and it communicates how important it is that we do make this change. And it's just as important as the product enhancements that everybody's working towards with the company's products.
Right. It's not just an IT thing. That's clear.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. And Kimberly, can you weigh in on the topic as well and talk to us about what you've seen at Fox or other organizations you've been in?
Yeah, so for HR specifically, one of the things that we're doing, and it's the top of my list right now too, is to make sure that our job descriptions are matching the company values as well as what we're looking for in these roles, right? So we don't want to post a project manager job description out for a Scrum Master role. So we're rewriting a lot of our Agile roles that we're opening up in making sure that those match the qualities and qualifications that you want in a Scrum Master or somebody who's going to come in at the program level or at the portfolio level, and also even at the coaching level, because that's another thing that I'm passionate about, is making sure that I'm building an internal coaching competency. So in looking internally at the talent that I have and seeing who has those transferable skills that I can bring up and nurture into a really good coach, as well as, having a job description and a job posting out there to get some full-time coaches into Fox itself, because this is not something one person can do. This definitely takes a whole team. Fox isn't as big as some of the big conglomerates, but I know we have a total of about 9,000 or so. And then in CPE alone, there's like 700 people. That is needing a coaching competency, a pool of people that can actually go and evangelize and coach people up on Agile. So those two things are near and dear to my heart right now, doing those job descriptions and building that internal competency.
I love that, because it speaks to a couple things. One, the kind of talent that you're going to attract, right? Is going to, like you're right fitting your job descriptions to the kinds of talent that you'd like to attract to the organization. And then two, that coaching competency just speaks to that underlying learning culture that, we're wanting to build in an organization. I mean, that's just Agile through and through, right? So those are great examples for getting HR involved. Let's talk a little bit about finance, and I'll take it over back to Anne, because I think finance is either one of those parts of the organization that maybe is last to join the party or, just kind of we handle with kid gloves at first. So I just want to kind of dispel that, like, I don't know, the carefulness that maybe we've built around working with finance. Maybe that's just my own baggage I'm bringing along, but and
no, it is, yeah. You're right. We have to be so careful with our finance folks because they have a direct line to a bunch of things. I don't even need to go into it, but payroll is one of them, right?
Right.
Yeah, I know. So what I've done in the past with finance departments is I would meet with them almost on a weekly basis, just to kind of go through what exactly are you looking for, what types of reports do you need, and what kind of data do you really need? Do you really need that piece of data? And what are you getting from it? Are you making financial decisions from it? Or are you just putting it into a PowerPoint to emanate data, emanate information, and who's actually looking at it? So, it's important to just kind of almost reduce down what are the financial requirements that the company needs to adhere to, and then work with them to say, okay, here's some Agile, just basic Agile coaching. Like, here's some principles that we're trying to follow. As you know, the teams are doing a transformation, and some of the things that you're asking from them are kind of an Agile anti-pattern. And so let's talk about how we can change it over time and what's our path. We're not going to change it overnight. But
Yeah, I really like that you said the change over time part. I think that's something to really take into consideration. I mean, for any team really, but finance, I think especially, something that I've experienced and you're kind of speaking to. I think that that's the kind of mindset that we want to have in engaging with them. Kimberly, I want to ask you as well about engaging with finance, because you threw out some numbers that grabbed the attention of some of your leadership. Talk to us about finance and engaging them.
Sure. So of course, as we know, if I'm here as VP of Agile Delivery, that I've had some prior experience as well. So
Yeah.
One of the things that I've done and that I hope to do here, we're still kind of in the beginning of our transformation. So finance is definitely on my hit list, if you will. But one of the things I've done was to engage them through the capital planning activities. And one of my engagements was, it was like a 3 or 4 month process to do capital planning. So for January, they were starting in July or August to start planning for, budgets for the next year. So one of the things is to help them lean that out, like looking at, you don't need to go get full estimates, pull teams off of working. And we could actually do a kind of a t-shirt or something, a historical data matrix that could show you what this body of work might entail. And we were able to cut the capital planning in half. And from what I hear after I left there, it's even down to less than that. So something that was taken, 3 to 4 months to achieve is now taking maybe a month and a half, because they've taken it to heart to realize that you're introducing waste when you're pulling people off to do these full-blown estimation sessions to find out how much money you need to ask for, when you already have historical data that could feed this for you. And then showcasing them also. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish. You said something I'm going to glom onto, but yes.
Okay. So showcasing also, one of the things is having the ability to show at the portfolio and enterprise level to burn down spend. Still, you can still establish a budget. You can still get your spend, and it's almost more accurate than those spreadsheets, processes that we were using.
Ooh, them's fighting words.
Yes, because we're rolling execution up to where our strategy is, and we were able to actually show really pretty dashboards, burn downs, getting them to understand the concept between, what a point is. And they were, they get to the point where the point costs this much at an epic level, so getting them to actually start thinking differently than having those extensive sessions of planning and reporting and the manual work that they were putting into, and even here right now at Fox, that the manual work that's going into the reporting, getting the data in the tool is going to be key for me.
All right. Yep. So let's do it. Let's go on to this next topic, because it's exciting. I mean, the difference that we can make across an organization and the amount of time that we can save by leaning out, but a lot of it depends on data. And so let's talk about tools. I want to go into that because I'm Jira Line. That's what we're going to talk about, because it's well, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. Tooling is critical, right? And Jira Align can do the work of a whole bunch of other tools. And, tying back into what you're saying, Kimberly, about, cutting down the amount of time that your teams are working at estimating or, capital planning activities is huge. And it really, let's just face it, it's very difficult to do without, an enterprise level tool like Jira Align. So I'm going to stick with you, Kimberly. Tell me more about that reporting overhead that's so huge, and like you alluded to, maybe not so accurate. What are we talking about? You said 6 months, right, of planning is now down to 3. Is there any other kinds of wins that you're expecting with using a tool like Jira Align? Right.
Well, so one of the things is once you get all of your, it kind of works out for itself, because, well, first of all, when I first come into any new place and I hear people saying, oh, I spent 4 hours getting that report ready. I spent 2 hours getting that report ready. And I start in my head, it's always been kind of like a Rain Man calculating brain I have. I start calculating how many people are spending that many hours and what their blended rate is and how much money we're spending to get these reports out. Like my head explodes and I'm like, oh my gosh. So having the ability to automate that in the tool, it takes away that manual effort. They're doing a couple clicks as long as the data's in there, right? And so teaching them, let's go up front, let's pull the process back a little bit and teach you that if you give us this data at this point in time, if you need to run a weekly report, you're literally clicking a button. So getting them to that point, down from 4 or 5 hours a week down to a couple clicks, that's huge. It goes a long way, and I can't wait to introduce this to Fox.
We're cooking it up right now as we speak, actually. Yeah, and I think sometimes that can also be kind of a motivator too, like, hang in there with me. This is, this is change that maybe you weren't, isn't going the way you really thought it might, but hang in there with me, because guess what? On the back end here, we're saving you all kinds of time. And how would you like to not have people come and pester you or this or that, when they can just, go right into the tool and see what they need to see. Yeah, that's terribly exciting for, I just don't know how other teams, well, I do know, but it pains me as well. Like, how are other teams really getting to this data without a tool like Jira? And let me move on over to you and give me your thoughts about tooling in general for those kinds of organizations that are out there kind of scaling their Agile efforts.
Yeah, so I've seen so many tools, right, through all of these engagements, these coaching engagements, and oh, it's just mind-boggling, the spaghetti mess of some of these tools that folks are using just to try and get your simple reports out. And then, if they have Tableau or some kind of reporting tool, they're feeding all kinds of data into Tableau and or one of the other reporting tools. But basically, it's always this spaghetti mess just to try and get some data for someone. But I'm just like, stop the madness. Your tools should be there to support your Agile best practices, right?
Right.
Stop the insanity.
There are tools out there that are worth it to, really support the teams and how they're working. I think a lot of tools, we have to contort ourselves to work just the right way to get this tool to do the thing and the thing.
Right. Yeah. All these custom fields, and you're forcing maybe your scrum master or your product owner or someone to go in there and do all this manual data entry just so we can get that report out. And somebody can write a script so it can go and feed over to here and over there. And, these tools just need to be supportive of your Agile mindset, your Agile best practices from the get-go. And that's what I really like about Jira Align, is that it's built by Agilists for Agilists. And as a result, it really helps to enforce these best practices and also reduce a lot of the anti-patterns that we see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kimberly's nodding her head over there.
Yes. Yes.
Chime in with any examples. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know that people love their tools. And then one of the things that I think gets missed is they get really used to also, once people establish, and I was like this too in my earlier days, when I get a process down and, oh my gosh, this is working for me, but I'm pulling things from 7 different places. I've got all these add-ons over here. I've got my some work is over here, some work is over here. Now I'm having to manually pull it all together from 7 different places in order to get what I need. And that's one thing I noticed when I first ever got introduced to Jira Align. I'm like, oh my gosh, it just eliminated all 7 of those other tools.
What did you do with all that extra time you had? I always have that question in the back of my head.
For some reason, the days still found a way to fill up. At least it wasn't on that. It was
more on what mattered, right?
Oh, sorry. Exactly. On strategy and things that actually, provided value.
Yeah. Hey, Thad, you're a leader of a platinum Atlassian partner organization that didn't come up overnight, and now that Jira Align is in the picture, can you talk a little bit about, the ISOs and how we've kind of grown alongside Atlassian in that regard?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to finally be able to speak on something that is in my wheelhouse. Yay. So thank you for that. But yeah, you know, and I think everybody on this panel touched on it, which is there was always this at war between the people that were tools focused and the people that were agile focused. And the problem was that the tools wanted to dictate your process. They didn't want to support your process. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that we loved about starting with just straight out Jira very early on was you can make it and meld it and have it do whatever process you want to run. It doesn't tell you what your good process and practices should be in your organization. And then as soon as they brought on Jira Align, it's like, oh my gosh, it's that at scale. And so, you know, one of the things that we're really excited about is like, you know, we had that tool slant, but we also realized, look, all of that, it has to be driven from the agile brain, from the agile mindset. And, you know, that's, you know, something that everybody on this panel does really well. And it's the tools aren't the star, it's the agile processes that are the star, and the tools help the agile stars be even brighter. So, you know, that's what's exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I am thrilled to be a part of it at ISOS personally. So thank you for that, and recognizing that importance. I think it makes a big difference in how we work with our clients and help them get the best out of the tools, but also the best out of themselves, right? With concepts that we get out of Agile. All right, so I'm going to move us along. We're humming along, you guys. This is great. I'm going to go into this last question here around, you know, I feel like we've talked about a lot of feel-good things, right? How are the roadshows that we get leaders involved with us, HR, we've talked about finance, a big wins with tooling like Jira Align. And so, you know, I'm like, all right, you guys, let's get real. Our leadership team, or our stakeholders, our customers are still having some expectations about, all right, that's all cute and fun and all that we're going to be working better, but like, we got to get some stuff done. So I want to hear from your experience around, you know, setting expectations with our leaders, especially, you know, managing those expectations when our teams might have a reduced capacity or might have reduced productivity because they're learning, right? So talk to me, Kimberly, about your experience in that area.
Well, I think once you've exposed the problem areas, right? So going back to that example of 12 days of work taking 86 days of extra waiting time.
Oh, the painful one. Yeah.
Yes, the painful. Once you baseline that, and you can use the empirical nature of Agile, and you can say, hey, let's run these experiments, right? We know we're going to reform these teams. They're going to be new. And we know that anytime you're new, you have to go through that whole process of actually forming the team, the storming, forming, norming, performing. We are very all familiar with that. And so setting those expectations up front and realizing that we are going to have reduced capacity for the first couple iterations or possibly increments that we do this. And we might not get it right at first. So we'll redo this. We'll keep inspecting and adapting this process. I need you guys, I need you to support this and then look at all these wins that we're getting. Even though we have reduced capacity, you're going to find that we're still able to get features out faster. So it's like you can start balancing their expectations based on the fact that work might be getting, even if the teams are getting less out, it's getting out.
Right. So, I mean, like you're reframing almost like what's important, right? Like, is it really all the productivity, or is it how we're doing it because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel that, man, we're going to get faster and faster. This is only just the beginning.
Yep, exactly.
Yes. I love that.
Measuring is very important. Data, being able to actually measure once you baseline those incremental improvements, it goes a long way to manage those expectations.
I don't know how it couldn't, and I love that you're bringing that up because you can just use that again and again to reset expectations. I also love that you're talking about the empirical nature of Agile. And going back to like, let's learn, let's do something quick, let's fail fast, all these other like roll off the tongue kinds of Agile things come to mind. That's fantastic. And Anne, so let's go on over to you. I want to hear what you have to share as well.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what Kimberly was saying. I also have a different thought around this too, is that a lot of managers and leaders have just this fear of reduction of productivity.
Yep.
I mean, there's this whole mentality. How many times I've said this in any engagement is we're trying to change the tires on the car while it's driving.
Oh, yeah.
Because no one wants to stop for a minute, right? To actually sit and digest and digest information, and then figure out how we're going to use that new training information into our context in our organization. And so because of that fear of loss of productivity, I've seen leaders and managers either opt themselves out or their teams out of the transformation, making up reasons why they're, oh, well, we're not ready yet, or we're not there yet. Don't go to them yet. Just do these people over here. And then it's been maybe even years of this delay before they actually join. And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, oh, if you just took that 1 week off and just took the time and just learned the information and restarted, you would have been, humming and going so fast by now.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And you can tie that back in almost to like what Kimberly's saying is like data is going to help. And, like fear's fear, right? And if it's there, okay, it's there. But like, what are the things that we can do? We can make sure that we have the data to support. We have wins along the way. Okay, maybe you're not ready. Okay, let me show you how it's done and you'll get excited. This is where you could be. Yeah, I think that's a really good point to bring up as well, because it's not really just all about the focus on productivity, but what else is going on inside of us or our leadership team that also needs to be talked about and addressed and, worth slowing down for, to address.
Yeah.
Thad, follow-up question for you, as a leader here at ISOS, what have you found to be really effective for speeding up time to learning, like going through our learning and then actually applying it, what's your perspective there?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's one of those things where I fight against my very nature to want to plan everything out and have every possibility checked and thought about. And it's more of like, let's just start going. Right. And so from that, you have to embrace, I think you mentioned it, like, hey, we might slow down here to start, right? But that's okay. And that's expected, but we need to start because we can't delay. We need to start doing something. So, taking it out of the ethereal learning and just putting it to practice and knowing that putting it into practice, you'll uncover and you'll learn new stuff and you'll be agile. You'll want to change some course along the way.
I love what you're saying, because you're pointing out the value in the activity of starting is learning itself, and you've created space for, I'm speaking from my own experience, but you've created space for us to try and mess up and learn and keep going, and it goes miles, as far as adopting an agile mindset or better ways of working. So I really love that. Thank you.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to move us in. We're humming along here. I'm going to move us into a lightning round. Don't be scared. 4 is one of my favorites. Thunder. Okay, here we go. Lightning round. I'm going to throw a question at you, and we're just going to boom, boom, boom. I'll say your name, and you give me your response. So part of the reason I pulled out this lightning round question is because better ways of working across an entire organization is not something that everybody can do every day, just real easy. Oh, that's easy. Now everybody's changed and we're all working better, right? If it were really easy, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. So sometimes things get tough, and we're agilists and we stick to our heart and we know, what's best for our clients and the organizations we work for. So I want to know in this lightning round, what is it that you tell yourself? What is your inner mantra that keeps you encouraged and keeps you going when things get tough? All right, I'm going to start. Anne.
So I'm always telling myself, focus on the positive parts, focus on what's going right, and focus on how far we've come since the beginning. Even if it's just been a month, there's definitely been some progress. because there, all this change, it takes a long time, and you get into the muddy parts of it, and you just got
Focus on the positive. That's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah. Kimberly.
So I always look back to my greatest success is my offering up to this planet of my son. I raised him on my own, and I always tell myself, if I can do that, if I can raise this man on my own, and he's a fantastic, productive part of society, then I can do this. There's nothing these people can throw at me that beats that. So I can do it. I keep my chin up, stay focused on the positive, and just know that I got myself through that. I can get myself through this.
That is such a good one. Shout out to all the parents out there
That's
on that
right.
one. Feel free to steal that one. Thad, what you got?
Mine's kind of a two-parter. One is like I find myself drowning in a lot of priorities and things. So one is, am I thinking about and worrying about the most impactful value add activity versus the 20 other things that I could delay but are still on my mind? So one is get clarity, and then two is do something, right? And just not get it done, but do something. And I think I find myself paralyzed by like, oh my God, I got to get this done. I don't know where to start. Just do something. Right. So what am I going to work on? And do something. And that gets me going.
I like it. I also like you added in there, what's the most, impactful thing, not just any to-do list, right? Yeah.
My retreat is I love spreadsheets, and I can go kill a good day working on spreadsheets, but they're not the most important thing I do, for sure.
I love that you know that about yourself. That's great. All right, I'm going to throw it in here too. My mantras rotate. This week, it's make what you care most about the most important thing. I was actually telling my daughter, hey, when you get out when you get up to bat, I need you to make hitting that ball the most important thing, and not the crowd and not anything. I'm like, hey, I can use that for me. I'm going to use that. Make what I care about most the most important thing. So when it's hard, remember what I care about. All right. Let's see how we're doing on time. We're doing good. We're humming through. So I want to give everybody a moment. I'm looking at the chat. We're about to get to our Q&A. Before we get into Q&A, I do want to point out to everybody that we have some great information that you can take as a follow-up. We have the Leading Through Change, the C-Suite's Role in Enterprise Agile Transformation. This is a white paper available right now. You can go to isostech.com/enterprise-agile to get your hands on that good chunk of information. Might be something you want to read through or share with others in your organization. And of course, you are more than welcome to contact us. We have our information up on the screen, isostech.com/contact-isos, or our number there. And we will get in touch with you. All right, so be sure to follow up with us if you feel inclined. And let's go into Q&A. So we have the Q&A panel. I'm going to pull that up and see where we're at. I'll give everybody a minute to kind of type that through. If you put your chat in or your question in the chat, I will get to it eventually. Let's see. So first question here I've got from Luke. Love hearing lean that out when you were talking about the capital planning. When full implementation of lean budgeting is reached, in my experience, there's a measurable increase in software capitalization. That's another great way to get finances here. Have you seen that kind of same improvement? And Kimberly, I'll open that up to you.
Can you repeat a little bit?
Luke's talking about, hey, when our teams have fully adopted agile ways of working, better ways of working, we've been able to work with finance and say, hey, you can up the amount of work that we're capitalizing now, because our teams are more focused on new and not just keep the lights on, right? So
Yes,
we're curious if that's been a similar experience that you've had as well.
Oh, yeah, sure. So one of the things that I agree with that is one thing that we were able to succeed with as well. And being able to minimize what is actually an operating expense, which is through the agile rituals and ceremonies, we're able to see like, okay, if we're not actually doing work and we're planning work and we're grooming backlogs and things like that, is that an operating expense or is that a, is that a capital expense? So being able to really qualify the actual work that's being done, and we use the ceremonies and the rituals and the people involved in those ceremonies in order to make those determinations. That we were really starting to evolve finance in that way as well. So and you're right, more things can be capitalized because you start realizing you got more value add work coming in here to get these products out there.
Yes. And so, this, I'm kind of curious too, is that's not something you've seen a big lift in just yet in this stage in your, adoption?
With my prior history, so I hope to bring it here.
Yeah. All right. That a girl. And do you have something to weigh in on this one as well?
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate the sentiments there, I've definitely seen a lot more capitalization, and in fact, it's more accurate too, because you're
minor
just
detail,
right. I mean, you can't hide from a lot of the transparency that is now happening because of agile ways of working. So yeah, it's an interesting phenomena.
It's one we are going after for sure. Okay, so I've got another question for anybody who would like to jump in on this one. This is from Bob, and he says, my experience has been that the middle management is the most resistant to change, as their role tends to have the most change in agile transformation. Do you have any tips to help them make the transition, our middle management friends?
Well, don't forget them. That's one thing.
Right.
It happens, right? Where we're focusing on teams, we're focusing on leaders, we're focusing, on these agile release trends, which is, you end up with a release and scaled agile perspective. You end up with these different roles, but it does leave managers and directors wondering, where do they fit in? So you can't leave them out. You can't forget them. You have to pull them in. They become more of the people developers. They become, they start helping people with their career and their soft skills and things like that, where they become
that coaching competency.
Exactly. I have transformed several of middle management layers into like coach type people that are now, very happy with what they're doing, but you can't think of them as an afterthought. They have to be part of this process from the very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I've written job descriptions, like I've rewritten job descriptions for transformations, just because it's like, okay, we need to give them something to do and we need to define that role specifically. And as Kimberly was mentioning, they often become coaches or lean agile leaders themselves. Now, are they an agile coach per se? Maybe not, but they're more of a career coach or a career path coach, or they're a technical coach. I mean, there's lots of different roles for them. We just need to make sure and call them out and do it sooner than later, because if you don't address what they're going to be doing, they'll start making up their own role. Many of us have probably seen that, where they're like, oh, well, I'm the something on this team. Where did that come
I had
from?
a leader that would say, if they don't know, they make it up. So let's get real clear. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
yeah. Even in one engagement, we had even given them the option. Would you like to join the team to be, is that where your heart is? Do you want to be a coder again? Do you want to be a senior architect on a team or something like that? Or would you like to do more of the management, people growing activity?
You're both saying, like they're needed. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about it early and not like leave it as an afterthought, because, oh yeah, I guess you could fit. Yeah, that wouldn't work so well. Those are good tips. All right, I think our last question is also from Bob, and this was around the time we were talking about finance, and he says, how do you move the needle to fund teams and products versus individual projects? Great question.
Well, I'll tell you, once you show how easy that formula is, we know how much it costs to do work. We know how much our people are costing us. We have never known to an accurate degree what a project is going to cost us. But we know how much our people, we know if we have 50 heads and we have a blended rate of $100, whatever that may be, we know over time how much that costs. It's such a simple formula. So once you reveal that, and finance people's head, they're like, wait, something's missing here. Wait, no, that can't be that simple. Yes, it really is. So that's the biggest thing, is showing them that the calculation itself to fund the team and keep the team alive is
I
so
mean-
much more accurate than trying to do the project-based funding that we were doing before.
It seems so simple, like it can't be true, but it is. Hey, we know this. Let's start with what we know and start here, and then change the flow of work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Fund the teams, move the work.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'm a fan. All right. I think we're good to wrap up. This has been so much fun. I can't thank you all enough for participating and sharing your knowledge and experience and tips and all this goodness with our audience. It's been so much fun. And again, if there's anything we can do to help, you got our information up on the screen. I'm sure this won't be the last time you hear from us all. Thank you again so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Quick shameless plug, we are hiring.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. All right. See you all later.